I believe that the United States can bounce back from the current crisis within 10 years. The whole world basically can bounce back from any crisis, even the climate crisis, within 10 years. No problems. I truly believe that. The only thing it takes is that people connect a number of dots that are now being purposefully disconnected. Purposefully you're being misled into a wrong-headed conception of the world that keeps you dependent on a number of corporations that are making money off you. Basically, the commercial interest in the US and around the world are treating people like tuna fish, you know, and then I'm not the people themselves maybe, but the money that they have. They're simply trying to deplete it, and when it's run out, when it's all gone, it's all gone. That's it. And then they move on. They try to find some other target. That's how you're being treated by the corporations. You have to realize that. You're simply, as a US people, a depletable target, and when the US is depleted, all the money is gone, it's only debt, then these companies will move on, they'll go to India and find some consumers there to deplete. It's exactly the same. You of course have to wonder, why would it be any different? Well, it isn't. The big dots that need to connect it are these. Energy does work for you. Energy works for you in machines, engines, trucks, cars. That's what energy does. Why do you sit in a car? Well, because it's a machine that has fuel in it, and then the fuel does the work, and you don't have to walk all the way. And why do you use a heater? Well, it's a machine that you do stuff into, and then you don't have to do any work. You just sit there and you get warm. And that work is wealth. What you experience as wealth is that work has been done for you. If I sit in a castle with a fireplace that is filled, I didn't have to go into the woods to get the wood, or it's a gas-fired fireplace, for instance, and I go to the kitchen in the fridge, and there's food there prepared in factories, and of course somebody has been working on the land to get all that stuff. In the current situation, or in the situation where oil was really cheap and plentiful, nobody really had to do much work, because the farmer was sitting on a tractor, and he had a big machine, and then he get the potatoes out of the ground, and the fertilizer that he threw on the land was also oil-based. All that energy was used to do work for the farmer, for the distributor, for the truck driver, for everybody, until you at home just get some potatoes on your plate, and you could cook it in the kitchen, no problem, no problem at all. And you didn't have to do much work, much labor. It didn't take you physical energy. That's what you experience as wealth. If you need something to do the work for you, there's plenty of options. There is sunlight, wind, wave power, geothermal power. There's different types of fuel. There's biogas. There is ammonia. There's so much options that it's really incredible. You can heat your house with solar power, because about 70 to 80% of the energy you need is heat, and that will create a lot of wealth experience in you, because you have a warm home that you can sit in. The only thing you need to do is get different gear going, get different types of machines going, get different let's say constructions and infrastructure going. And that's what you need to ask for, and that doesn't really need much time to do, especially when you do it on an individual basis. And that's where the rub is. Basically what you now have is these tuna fisher type mentality corporations that are stopping you from having easy access to solar power, for instance, and to geothermal power. It's always very expensive, it's always very large scale. That's because these companies basically think of you as a tuna fish to be depleted. They're gonna sit in the end of the margin that you can afford. And you should tell them that, listen, I want a solar panel, I want to have the cheapest one available without getting you out of business. And that's it. I want to have a solar thermal panel in my home to get warm water, to experience the wealth of having hot and cold water. But don't charge so much. Don't charge me with thousands of dollars for a piece of copper and then a piece of plywood or whatever the shit is. That's nonsense. Listen, if you want to create a wealthy society, don't block that process. That should be, the road to this wealthy society should be as cheap as possible and as soon as possible, not being, let's say, an exploitative process with resistance every step of the way. And that's what you should keep in mind. You want to have something to do the work for you. It doesn't need to be oil, And there's technologies for that, and they need to be as cheap as possible.